What's up, moviegoers? Welcome to the Markio Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony. In this episode of the Markio Podcast, I'm talking about Halloween H2O, 20 years later. It is the 7th installment in the Halloween franchise and ignores the plots of the previous 3 installments. Halloween H2O is a direct sequel to the first 2 films and follows a post-traumatic Laurie Strode who has faked her death in order to go into hiding from her brother Michael Myers, who finds her working at a private boarding school in California. The movie is directed by Steve Miner. It stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Adam Arkin, Michelle Williams, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, Janet Leigh, Josh Hartnett, LL Cool J, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. The budget for the movie was $17 million, and it grossed $75 million at the box office. Now, this movie takes place 20 years after the events of the first 2 Halloween movies, Halloween 1 and 2. So this movie doesn't even mention part 3, 4, 5, or 6 at all. So this movie is a direct sequel to that. So if you do it the movie timeline way, it's Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and then Halloween H2O. The interesting thing about this is that when this movie first came out, everybody thought it was about water. You know, Halloween H2O, like, oh, what does H2O stand for? It's basically just Halloween 20 years later. It was a smart thing, but you could have named it something else instead of Halloween H2O, which was just a dumb writer's remark of how to make things easy. Now, the screenplay for the movie was based on a story by Kevin Williamson. Now, Kevin Williamson, you may remember, is the screenwriter for the Scream movies, which Wes Craven directed. Now, the working title for Halloween 7 was The Revenge of Laurie Strode. Williamson was initially hired to write a script, and the story was situated as a sequel to the previous 6 films, therefore keeping the timeline's continuity of each film. When Kevin Williamson first outlined Halloween H2O, he created the storyline in which Laurie Strode faked her own death and taken on a new identity as a specific way of retconning the character's death in Halloween 4. In Kevin Williamson's original treatment, there are scenes in which a Hillcrest student does report a killing spree from Michael Myers, mentioning the death of Jamie Lloyd, with complete flashbacks of movies 4 through 6 mentioned in the text. Now, Laurie responds to hearing the student's report on the death of her daughter by going into a restroom and throwing up. Now, we all know John Carpenter, the director of the very first Halloween movie, so you think he'd come back in this sequel, right? Well, Jamie Lee Curtis wanted all the cast and crew to come back, and John Carpenter was considered to direct. However, it was believed Carpenter opted out because he didn't want any involvement in this. However, later on, it was found out that this was not the case. John Carpenter stated that he agreed to do the film, but his starting fee as director was $10 million. So he demanded a 3-picture deal with Dimension Films. Carpenter's bargain was denied by the Weinsteins, and therefore no deal took place. Carpenter rationalized this by believing the hefty fee was compensation for revenue he had not received from the original Halloween, a matter that was still in contention between Carpenter and Halloween producer Mustafa Akkad even after 20 years. When Mustafa Akkad balked at Carpenter's fee, Carpenter quit the project and Steve Miner was assumed as director. So here's the thing, if you bring back John Carpenter for the 20th anniversary of this movie, and Jamie Lee Curtis is in it, you know it's going to be a good movie. Now, this movie was good and it was well received by critics and fans alike. It had some mixed to positive reactions to it, and the thing is that I did like this movie a lot. I liked it because, Jamie Lee Curtis was back. She was finally going to face her brother. And, it was good. It was done in a way where it was different. The killings in this movie are really interesting. And seeing Michael Myers go after students in a boarding school was good. And seeing Josh Hartnett in a horror movie was good. He was really underrated at the time. And he hadn't really done much at all in Hollywood. LL Cool J's in this, and he's a great comedic relief as Ronnie Jones, the security guard. And the final confrontation between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers is great. The anticipation is great, and anticipation is there. Now, when this movie came out, I was a huge fan of this movie because I loved Michael Myers. I loved the Halloween movies. I loved horror. It was great, and the great thing about this movie is the ending. Michael Myers' head gets chopped off by Laurie Strode. She finally kills her brother once and for all. I can't say enough about this movie because after Halloween 2, or actually Halloween 3, the series wasn't as good. 4, 5, and 6 stand on their own because Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis was good, and he's the one that carried those movies. And if Donald Pleasence was alive to make this 7th movie, I'm pretty sure that it would have had a different ending, and that Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasence and both of their characters would have actually, embraced and finally defeating Michael Myers. The whole Curse of Thorn and the Druid Curse is thrown out the window. Nothing about it is mentioned. And Michael Myers is just one of this, human being. And he's just back 20 years later trying to kill his sister. And, that's it. And that's what he wants to do. The movie is a very quick watch because it's only 85 to 86 minutes long. And it's really, really quick. This is a good Halloween movie that's very underrated. And let me know in the comment section below what you think about Halloween H2O 20 years later. Do you think it's a good solid sequel to the first 2 movies? And did you like seeing Jamie Lee Curtis back? And what did you think about the ending of Michael Myers getting his head chopped off? So let me know in the comment section below about the questions I just asked. And be sure you tune in to the next episode of the Markio Podcast, where I talk about Halloween Resurrection. And be sure you click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell for new videos and new podcast episodes on the Markio Productions YouTube page. And follow Markio Productions on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And follow me, Anthony, your host, on Instagram and Twitter at Mr. Filmstock. And follow the Markio Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'll leave a link to all the social media accounts in the description box below. You can check it out and follow along. All right, everyone, that does it for today's episode. I'm your host, Anthony. Thanks for tuning in.